Barbara Linley, our special guest. I think we have an apology from the Mayor. Our councillors, we have quite a few of our councillors here, welcome. Invited guests and our community members. I have some apologies from Mayor Tiley, Councillor Clancy, our Regional Librarian Catherine Brewer, and some of our library staff. First of all, I'd like to invite Kalua Charlton to speak today. Kalua is a proud yoga woman and a valued member of our library team here at Grafton Library. I'd like to acknowledge Kalua and her brother Gareth's contribution of artwork to the exhibition around us.
Thank you, Katrina. I was invited by Erin when she first started this, so I'm just going with what I know and what I've just recently found out. So I grew up in Yamba. Years and years ago, a long time ago, we used to walk along the beaches, and I vaguely remember at least over 12 maybe emus we saw one day down at the beach when we were walking out to Dump Beach, and sometimes we'd walk to Back Beach, and we'd also go driving out the back past the lakes, and we'd see the emus there in the bush, and that was many years ago. But now I'm lucky to see any, and only time I do is when I'm driving up here to work on the side of the highway. Like I said, I myself don't have much knowledge or experience with them. They are a beautiful sight to see. I love them. Very excited when I do see them, and I do jump on the site and post my little icon. Yeah, so I'll just do a little bit of history and research that I've done. So a long time ago, before my time, my mob or First Nations people would hunt the emus and eat them. They were looked upon as a delicacy. I myself had never tasted them, and probably never will. And they would only hunt the males, as the females were kept, like most other things, to produce more and provide more food for us. I didn't really take much notice, but my older cousin said the other day, when they were tracking them, they would look for the emu paw prints, and the arrow, actually, which is facing the opposite direction, is where they would be going, not that way. Their feathers were kept and used for headdresses and other jewellery for ceremonial reasons. These days I've seen them being sold online, and I know one of my cousins down Homeway, she's been buying them and using the feathers to make beautiful jewellery still, with the earrings and necklaces and the headdresses for our mob when we do the dances. The emu egg itself, so one emu egg would feed a whole family. Well, you know, one chicken egg is lucky to feed one person. So, what I was going to say about the emu eggs, so they are protected by their father, but I don't know, it was in traditional times they would never take them all. When they were hunting the emu eggs, they would leave the nest and would have to leave an odd number of 1 or 3 or 5 or 7. I'm not sure why that is, but I only just found that out the other day. So. And I do know myself that the father, the male emu, does all the caring and rearing of the young chicks. So I don't know how they would used to go there and get the eggs if the father emu is always sitting on them, like we have to do a quick run, grab, dive and run away, because the size of an emu, like, you know, how big they are, a male one. What else? Yeah, they do a lot of walking and travelling, so with their long legs, spreading their seeds and scats all around, which will also regrow the plants and providing more food for themselves and for our people back in the days. So what I like to say about all this program and the protection of them, I really like it. I believe what we are doing is great to reduce the reduction and encourage more emus to stay into our future. The speed zone, I love it. Out towards Brooms Head. I was just talking to Barbara, so every time I drive from home going out to Brooms, the steel rusted ones, they call me every time I think it's an emu, so I'm like, oh no, it's not one. And that's pretty much all I have to say. So, thank you.
Thanks, Cool. Please welcome today our guest for the event, Barbara Linley. Barbara has been awarded the Clarence Valley Citizen of the Year award for her continuous effort in the fight to protect the coastal emus. Barbara would like to share her story with us.
Okay, now thank you. I'll just see if I have to use this. I think it's amazing you're here, to be honest. I'm not really a speaker, I'm more of a doer, but it is lovely to be invited and to be able to share this story because, well, for a number of reasons, and you'll find out soon. I have to write it down because I won't remember it all. Okay, so, yeah, well, just thank you for Grafton and the council for doing this lovely display. I think it's amazing. It's amazing what's happened in the last 3 years, and it's going to continue. The emu now has a life of its own, people. It's just so good. And I'm so thankful I've been a part of this journey. Okay. Now, this award, when I got the Clarence Valley Citizen Award, I was very privileged to get it. I was quite humbled by it, I must admit. And the person who nominated me is in this room, and it was lovely. I said yes, I would, but never expected to get it. But I think there is such an important story to be had on so many levels, and I was happy to be able to accept the award and do things for the help of the Endangered Coastal Emu. The most important thing about this is it's for the community, communication and collaboration for teamwork. It wasn't just me, though I must admit I'm a pretty determined sort of person, and over time it's amazing what we've all achieved, and I'll tell you this story. I might jump a bit. I don't tend to go in straight lines when I'm talking. I do, but I'll try and keep it in a way that you all enjoy the talk. Brooms Head. When I first came from, I'm Victorian, and I was doing up a house in Maclean. And at the time I was living in Brooms Head, so I was going along the Brooms Head Road twice a day, 5 times a week. And the amount of roadkill on that road was, I thought, atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. And I was determined to do something about it. Little on me, I thought, no, I can't cope with this. In Victoria, bandicoots are protected up here. There were so many being killed and nobody seemed to worry about, oh, that's just a bandicoot. Well, I thought we can't have this happening. And with working together, we've achieved so much, and I'll tell you what we've achieved now, not at the end. The speed limit along Brooms Head Road was decreased 7.2 k's from 100 to 80. That has made a huge difference. The emu zone signs, I think, are amazing. I think we're the first in Australia to do something like that, which is great. And the flashing lights at either end of the wildlife corridor, I think it's just amazing what we've all achieved. Yes, at the time, I actually didn't think this would happen. The amount of work that goes into bringing about change is quite incredible. But I don't give up easily, as people sort of realise that. I just get going and do it. But I also bring people along the way. I actually enjoy people, and I want people to work with people. Okay, now, well, that's for all the roadkill. Okay, and then one day, I bought a block of land at Linley. That's where the emu sculptures are. And I put a couple of emu sculptures there because that slowed the traffic down. Yes, so, and now that they've got a family, even though Dad and Mum are together, the family's still there, so there's about 6 of them. And I think it's been really good to have that. Okay, now I'm jumping around a bit, but that's all right. I put a first submission into council and that didn't work. And I thought, because I thought it was quite simple. You know, it's quite simple to take a road sign down and get it to 80 and whatever, but nothing is simple enough anymore, and I don't know if it ever was. But anyway, I learned a hell of a lot about that submission going to council, and it got stopped. We don't need to go into all those. It didn't get stopped actually, council, it got stopped past council. So, but anyway, that's another story. But then I realised to bring about change, I need to do something different. And I need a bit of clout. One person can't do something on their own easily. So the whole idea of this was, then I went to a tree day, and there was a woman there, Robin from Maclean Lines, and she was interested in starting a koala group. After the meeting, I got up and said to her, Robin, can we include emus? And she said, yes, as long as you can get people along to the meeting. So I did. I actually got a lot of people to come. So we started the Lions Club of Clarence Environmental, and I'm really proud of that because I'm a founding member. and we're the only Lions Club in Australia that is for threatened flora and fauna. So we're all sort of for the animals. So I'm really very proud of that. And I think we're doing some great stuff. Small steps, but we're doing great stuff. Okay, then I thought, right, now what's the next step? A petition. Right. And I've got one of the original people here, Nikki, who was on my committee initially. We thought, right, we've got to get a petition out. Now, the interesting thing is this petition I was referring to was transport, and they are quite different. I've learned people have their own rules and regulations, and you've got to work through this. Okay, so about the petition. Now, the petition was amazing. I actually really like the Young's Farmers Market, so I go there. And we got some great signs, and people wanted to help. And this is what was the amazing thing. People come, how can we help? Okay, and it was lovely. The Clarence Distillery, their vodka bottles, they want a new range, and they decided to do it at the emus. And they asked me about, and these are the emu, the symbols that they did, the 3 emus. We had at the surf club, we had a fundraising night, which was brilliant. They started their vodka night, and we raised $2,500 for the emu petition, and for our emu. I suppose what we were going to do. I hadn't really quite worked out what we were going to do with that money yet, but we were starting to get there. So it's about work in progress. So I sort of think, right, we've done something now. We'd better do the next step. Okay. It all works out in the long run, though, I must admit. The Clarence Distillery, which was great, and the other thing is, what was lovely, they said that our club could use the 3 emus. So it's all about sharing, and it's really great. They just come from South Australia, and they wanted to do something different. They came out and saw me. Now, they weren't the only people. We actually also had a raffle, and Needs Essential. They gave us 2 wetsuits, the value was $700, and that was brilliant. So and we did a raffle. We did lots of things. Emu Easter eggs. And I was at the Yamba Farmers Market on Wednesday, and a lady came up to me and she said, I still remember those emu Easter eggs, and that's 18 months ago. So I thought, it's amazing, people keep on remembering. Then we did the t-shirts, the bags, and we did other things. So, and these were selling so we could raise money. I think, I really don't quite know if I realised what we were going to do with this money, but we're definitely going to be doing something with it. And before I got involved, well, I've known, anyway, I'll come to these in a second. Okay. Anyway, we ended up by raising more than $8,000 actually, which is pretty good for the community, $8,000, and we're still raising money. At the time we were doing all this, we did another submission, and oh my goodness me, this was hard going, but somebody else came up to help me, and they came out of the woodwork and said, Barbara, I can help you write a submission because I've actually extended the road another 1k to 80 outside my place in Goldenbrad. She was a gem, Rebecca Ludcock. Her computer skills, well, tell you what, she was just brilliant. And we did the best submission that we could. And then the other thing is, I decided not to go to council. I went straight to transport, which they weren't very happy with, but that was just too bad. And it was really interesting. And I thought, right, we've got to tackle it because transport were the speed limit. It wasn't council, it was transport, and that was one of my key things. So, okay, and then, so we were dealing with that at the same time. Then, okay, that's now. Oh, that's right. I found it was really interesting. I thought, now the interesting, transport aren't really interested in dead animals, I'm terribly sorry to say. They're interested in driveways and how far apart driveways are. So once we learnt their currency, Rebecca and I, we went and measured along that road. We went and measured how far apart these were driveways, and we fitted into their criteria. I think they weren't happy at all, but we did. And the first meeting was so good, that first meeting we had. We actually got an independent person to come and check the whole Brooms Head Road. And so this is all Brooms Head Road. And we were invited, Rebecca and I were invited to go with him. I thought, I didn't believe this, that we were actually invited to go with this guy from Transport. So we actually talked to him non-stop along this road, of course. And anyway, we got a positive, obviously a very positive report back from him. Now, there's a number of things happening all at once. It's not just like linear, it's all circular. At this time also, I had met, well, I sort of knew Melissa Geese, who worked for Save Our Species, that's the State Department, but I didn't really know her very well. But I thought, Save Our Species, right, okay, need to get to know her. So, and her family is known in Brooms Head and McLean. And I've got Melissa's mum here, Daphne, because it was at some stage about this time that Melissa said to me that her dad, Kevin, had tried 40 odd years ago to get the speed limit decreased. So I said to Melissa, right, I think we better do something about this, hadn't we? So that was part of it. And Melissa actually went back to the State Department and she actually put in this amazing submission for, I don't know if I'm allowed to say how much money, but it was a lot of money to work to protect the coastal emus, which was absolutely brilliant. And also about the same time, we were starting to get meetings together. I've been working with Reese Luxton, who I think is a very good council worker. I'm really impressed with you, Reese. And I'm very happy to say that openly. And the other thing is people would know that when I first came into Brooms Head, there were cars on the Brooms Head beach. I didn't like that at all. So there were a couple of other people got together and we went to council. And that's where I met Reese. And we got the cars off the beach at Brooms Head Road. And we did that as a safety feature. I mean, the birds were irrelevant in many ways at that point in time, but the safety. So, and I think it's brilliant. So we've actually got the Brooms Head Road down to 80, and we've got cars off the beach at Brooms Head. I think it's not a bad effort in 5 years' time. Okay, now, okay, so that's definitely good step. So the thing is we had this series of meetings, Transport, Save Our Species, Council and us. And I was representing the community and Lions. So, yeah, and they were good going. They were all Zoom meetings. I learned how to do Zoom, like a lot of us did. And that was good, but it worked extremely well because I think people were really now trying to make a difference. And the other good thing is we had some changes in transport. They were making some changes, and the two people we got were really good. Alexia Miller, and I can't remember her title now, and her senior. So Alexia took over, and she was brilliant. So our meetings were really positive. They were all positive meetings, so that was great. So, yeah, community participation, communication, collaboration. I've got excellent teamwork and working together for the coastal emu, and we succeeded. And I reckon we succeeded because we worked together. I'm not a great believer in us and them, it's us. It's us and we. You never get anywhere if it's sort of you're antagonistic. And I think in the few years, and I think this emu has been, well, the coastal emu and what we've achieved, is just a great example of how we can achieve things done together. I just think it's amazing. So I'm really proud to be involved in this, and I'm proud of our Lions Group and what we're doing. So I'm nearly finished. I have mentioned about the $8,000 for the emu zone signs. That I think they really haven't been disfigured, and I think the community own them. It's lovely. People know that they have paid for that, and I think sometimes when people pay for something, they take more ownership of it. The other thing is my sculptures were disfigured, and they had bullseyes. Somebody painted bullseyes on them, and people were incensed with me. I was being incensed, but I left it them there. I didn't paint over them for about 6 months, and it was interesting. They haven't been touched since. But also, I think people were really annoyed that happened. So it's about word of mouth. I sort of think people say, "Oh, isn't that terrible?" And I think word of mouth makes a big difference. Okay. I'm very thankful for Erin for getting the register. Made it a bit easier. That is so good. So people are registering their emus, and that is so important, please, to register. Because the more emus we have in certain areas, the more council can do something if there's an issue like subdivisions. So I think that's pretty alright. The other, now let me have a look. Okay. I actually think the other thing is the community know about the emus now. When I started, they really didn't know anything about them, and they didn't realise there were so few of them. And now, the community, especially about McLean, there's a lot of people know that there's the emus and they're endangered, and we've got to do something about them. So I think we've raised the awareness now of our endangered species, not just the emus, about the wildlife, and I think that is brilliant. Okay. The other thing that I did last summer with Kat here, and because there were 2 emus in Gomre, two emus, and they've been there for a few months, and that you can feed emus. It's not, we rang National Park, and you're allowed to feed them. So I didn't think that was a very good idea, so a few of us got together, and we did this. It's the food plants for endangered coastal emus, so people actually can grow the food instead of feeding them. So that was one way of sort of trying to tackle the problem. Yes. So I think that's really good. And we did these little stickers too, which I thought was quite cute. So yeah. Okay. Now I think I'm nearly finished. Yes. You know what? I love driving down Brooms Head Road now. It is so pleasant. You don't have these. The police are around too, by the way, so just be careful if you're going too fast. You'll get caught, which is great. So I'm glad their revenue is raising because of that. So I think it's good use of their time. Yeah, but it is. It's so much more. It's so much safer too. I mean, the road's pretty terrible, but it's so much safer. And I've got this down here. For me personally, it's so much more enjoyable driving on that Brooms Head Road because there is so little roadkill now. And the interesting thing is, when I started on the emu, I knew if I'd done something about bandicoots, we wouldn't have got anywhere. But the emu is a big, iconic bird. It's on our coat of arms. It's even here, which I think is good. So, and I think, right, start with something that people can really identify with, and that's why I chose the emu at that point in time. But it was all wildlife, and I just loved driving down because there's so little roadkill. And the other thing that's brilliant is the emus have got a life of their own now. So many other things are happening. Save Our Species Council, and the Kirsty's not here, but there's a lot going on in this space. Watch this space, and I think there's a lot of work being done to help preserve the coastal emu, and I think that is great. So as I said, collaboration, community, what's the 3 ones? I think I've got 3, haven't I? Community, communication, collaboration, working together, and it's amazing what you can do when you work together. It takes a bit longer, mind you, sometimes, but I think it's just brilliant. Now, I think that's enough for me.
Does anyone want to ask any questions for Barbara at this point?
Yes, sorry, I didn't see that.
So what do you see for, say, the next year or 2 for the emus? What are you hoping for?
Okay, well, there's an emu coastal breeding program, which is great, that is happening. There's actually money for feral animal control, which I know is happening because I've had some of the people on my place, wild dogs, pigs, cats, by the way, so, and I'm wanting to eradicate them. So that will help. So that's 2 of the things happening. Reece might be able to say something, or I think. Yes. Yeah. So that's it. Excellent. So, but it is. It's amazing, and people know that. So lots is happening. Cool. Yeah. But yes.
I just want to know, have you heard the sound that they make? Do they make sounds?
Oh yes, I do. It's a drum. It's amazing. It's the sound of a drum, and it's only the female that makes the noise.
Do you need to make the noise?
No, I couldn't make the noise. No, but I tell you, if you want to go and hear it, it reminds you of Africa. You know that drumming of Africa? The Tully Morgan Emu Farm have emus there. They're not coastal emus. You'll go and you'll hear them there, and it's an amazing sound.
Do they only make it when they're mating, or you know?
I think I've got a feeling that might be right.
They'll do it like to defend themselves.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Leah can,
Yes.
yeah, Leah can take over. Oh,
Where I'm about
Oh,
to
you're
get up
going to
with
do
it.
that.
She's about to follow you.
Okay. Thanks everybody for attending. Thanks.
Thank you, Barbara. Very interesting to hear your journey, and yes, it was, as someone who didn't know a lot about coastal emus, hearing the numbers, that it's less than 50 still around, is quite confronting. Barbara's talked about Reece. Reece Luxton's our next speaker. Reece is with Council. He's the Coordinator for Natural Resource Management and Projects, Environment and Regulatory. His team are responsible for the Council Emu Register, and I think Leah Hooper from DPE is going to join him in his presentation. Thank you, Reece.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming along. It's fantastic to see a full house. We weren't expecting that. We were thinking maybe only a few numbers coming along, but it's great to see the numbers here. So I acknowledge you all and thank you all very much for coming along. Also, thank you to Barbara. It's a fantastic story that she's been able to put to us there, and very glad to be able to be part of the journey with you, Barbara. So yeah, we've had a great result, good partnership, and hope that continues. Yeah. So, so Jesse, I'm with the Clarence Valley Council, so I'm the Natural Resource Management Coordinator. I've got Leah here with me today, Leah Hooper, and we're partners in crime, I guess you could say, with this project. I'll be speaking a bit on sort of Council's role in the program as it has been thus far, and Leah's got an excellent presentation here as well that she'll take us through. But initially I just wanted to run through some of the key statistics, I guess, of the endangered coastal emu population. Annual population surveys have been undertaken for many years, principally by national parks. And since 2000, the year 2000, they found that the coastal emu population was in significant decline, from approximately 140 individuals to fewer than 50 individuals in 2017. So that's an extraordinary drop rate there. Rapid decline. We've got vehicle strike being recognised as one of our key threats. And more than 50 animals alone have been killed by vehicle collisions since year 2000. Notwithstanding that, bushfires that we had in 2017 and the 1920 period as well too, no doubt would have severely impacted on the population across our across the emus geographic range as it is. So, and after an emu was killed by a vehicle strike in 2021, it was then that we had this grassroots action that sort of come about. Council's role is principally through, as stated in our delivery program, we're there to help preserve and enhance our natural environment as such. We also have a biodiversity strategy. You may not be aware of that. And out of our biodiversity strategy, we are seeking to identify a range of funding opportunities and incentives for the establishment and maintenance of habitat corridors, but also to ensure that our road design and traffic management incorporates measures to reduce the threat of roadkill. So the black spot identified, I guess you could say, the Brooms Head area there. We had a program in 2018 with Environmental Trust that helped fund our register that Barbara mentioned there before. We also did a range of brochures, our sightings analysis, which identified the numbers of 50 individuals. And so we thought, right, what do we do from that point on? And that's where we got together, and with the help of the Biodiversity Conservation Division, saving our species, we're able to sort of get that collaboration up and running, so to speak. So as part of that, Barbara mentioned the speed reduction. One of our key involvements in that was, with my section, was the involvement of the emu patches. So if you haven't been out to the Brooms Head Road and noticed those emu patches, they're fairly well modelled on what's been established on the north coast with koala zones and things like that. But yeah, we must say this is one of our first ones. Not only for, I guess, the emus, but also for the Clarence in general. So it was a great result to actually get that underway. Along with those emu patches, we've also got recently installed some vehicle activated signs, or VASs, and that's going to help us really promote that driver safety aspect of ensuring that the emus aren't impacted on when they do cross the road as such. So I guess, one of the key things, as mentioned there, it's really just a collaboration between a range of parties, and couldn't have done it without the support of all that's under there. So I think from there, do you want to roll on
Sure.
some other aspects?
Yeah. Hi everyone, thanks for coming. My name's Leah Hooper. I'm a Threatened Species Officer with the Biodiversity and Conservation Division. It's the Department of Planning and Environment, and I'm lucky enough to be the Species Project Coordinator for the Endangered Coastal Emu Population Project. Like Reece said, he gave a bit of a summary and a background of the coastal emu, but there's lots of different elements to the project that are all happening that's sort of been going on over the past 12 months, so we thought this is a great opportunity to sort of share some of the activities that are underway. We've received a little bit of funding for a fencing project. So basically it's to support landholders in some of the key emu hotspots to replace some of their stock-proof fencing with emu-friendly fencing and also gates. So we've done a couple of trials. I've just included a little video here of one of the first trials, which is just 2 floppy strands of wire. This landholder didn't need a particular fence there, but they wanted some sort of barrier. So it's quite simple, but it's one key known sort of crossing point across Brooms Head Road. So I just put together a little bit of footage from the camera from monitoring, because it shows quite some interesting emu behaviour. 2 emus that sort of approach the road on multiple occasions. They move away when the vehicles come, and then eventually they safely cross the road. So, we haven't really seen that sort of emu behaviour before, so we're capturing some pretty interesting data. We've engaged a contractor that's helping us deliver this part of the project, so they're working with some of the key landholders in some of those areas. We've had in-kind support from Reece and Clarence Valley Council that's helping us to get in touch with those landholders in those priority areas. The next thing I was going to talk about was this year we received some additional funding from the Commonwealth, so some post-fire recovery money that's funding a pilot population supplementation program. So the idea is to locate wild nests from this very small population, collect a small number of eggs from a wild nest, incubate them in the established emu facility that we've got at Tullymorgan. We'll rear the chicks to 3 months of age, and then they'll be moved to a soft release site that we have in the Pillar Valley. They'll remain there until they're 18 months old, and then the soft release site will be designed so the emus will be released straight out into the surrounding landscape, which is core habitat for the emu population. So I'll just talk through some of the key components of this project, of this part of the project that we've been working on. So we're trialling some sort of new and innovative technology. We undertook some trials last September using a thermal drone which can detect the heat signature of the emu. The trials included a variety of habitats, and we decided that we're going to focus on cane farms where we know that there's been a lot of emu activity, and also focusing on cane farms where there's been previous nesting sites over recent years. So the thermal drone works really well in the cane landscape because it's very uniform, and it was successful at picking up a male with 3 or 4 chicks and another male with 2 chicks last season. So the trials were quite successful. So I've included just a few images here to have a bit of a look at, but I mean the top one is just sort of I guess the view from the drone. So there was 4 emus that we had been tracking on one of the known cane farms, and we're actually been tracking them back to roosting sites. So we have eyes on 10 emus and where they roost. So we're picking up some really interesting information that we've never had before. And from speaking to the farmers and species experts, it's likely that the emus are going to nest near where they roost. So we've got eyes on these, and we're sort of out daily at the moment because this is sort of the peak period where if they're going to be laying this season, you know, we're going to hopefully find a nest. We've also developing a mechanical egg collection device, which probably sounds pretty out there. But this idea sort of came from, I guess, wanting to have minimal disturbance on the population on a wild nest. Also talking to cane farmers who advised us that they wouldn't walk into the cane with the pigs and the snakes, and also other emus, like the females that are close by, can be quite aggressive. So the drone operators that we're working with have developed this egg collection device that we're going to be trialling on the captive emus first, and we're actually due to do that next week. So stay tuned on how that goes. I've included a little bit of footage just from the trials of the thermal drones that we did last year. I just thought it would be interesting to show sort of some of the cool capabilities that we're able to achieve with this technology. So you can see how difficult it would be to pick up a nest in this sort of landscape, and it was only the thermal capability that could actually pick up the heat signature. So it's quite incredible. We caught some footage of 2 males having a tussle. It's just something that we couldn't do, you know, without this technology for this part of the project.
So is this in the Clarence Valley?
Yeah, this was in the Clarence Valley, in the Linley area. Yeah.
So are they eggs that we're looking at, as well as the
Sorry, they're chicks. So they're chicks. That was in, I think, late September last season. So there was a male with 2 chicks and then a male with 4 chicks. Yeah. Oops. So I've also managed to get some additional funding for pest control, because prior to now, although it's such a crucial element, it hasn't really been a part of the project. So I put in a bid for some additional funding, and now we can support landholders in some of these key hotspots. Again, sort of where we know there's a lot of emu activity, or where the emus have nested in recent years. So mostly on cane farms, not all of them. So, I mean, this has been completely eye-opening to me, and as well, using this thermal drone in combination with the pest control contractors, we're allowed to, it's allowed us to see a lot more than what we would. So this, I hope you can see that, but this is the thermal drone over one of the cane farms. Oh no, it's paused. It is working? Oh yeah. Yep. So it actually just shows like the devastation. Pigs, it actually picked up 70 pigs in the cane And this property, so you can see the image there of sort of, I've got another image from a week later, and it's this particular type of cane that has a higher sugar content, but the pigs are just attracted to it, and it's pretty much completely decimated. And this little video here is the same. I don't know if it's going to play. Oh, there we go. So this is the same cane farm last season. There was a male with 6 little chicks. So, you know, they would nest close by, somewhere you would imagine, and at the moment with 70 pigs in the paddock next to it, like nearby, they just don't really have a chance. So if they do lay eggs this season, pig predation is one of the key threats. So to have this additional money to support landholders is a really important part of this project, and we're hoping that we can sort of just do that ongoing from now on to attract more money, because now we've got this sort of information about how sort of how many pests. So we've picked up pigs, dogs, foxes, cats, you know, they're all around. So the soft release side I already sort of mentioned. At 3 months of age, we're going to transfer the chicks to the soft release site. We're working with a private landholder in the Pillar Valley that's sort of in core habitat. They're doing a lot of monitoring on their site, and we know that there's males and chicks on their property, and sort of the surrounding landscape. They're very close to national park, so once the chicks reach 18 months old, it will be designed where they can just be sort of, the gates will be opened and they'll be released back in to supplement the wild population. So yeah, the idea of moving the chicks at 3 months is that, you know, we want to have minimal human interaction. We want to avoid any sort of chance of having imprinting, and also to get them from the farm into their natural habitat. It will be quite a large predator-free sanctuary, so they'll have room to roam and forage. We'll have some supplementary feeding, but there'll also be some landscaping if required to have their natural food sources that they'll be able to forage on in preparation for being released into the wild. I just thought I'd mention community engagement a bit. We have an amazing community engagement team that has been very engaged in this project, and yeah, there's been some amazing events which is really helping spread the word. Like Barbara mentioned, like people are starting to hear the story and sort of reach out and want to be involved, which is a really big thing for the future conservation of the population. They worked on a community-led short film depicting the cultural story of the emu and the platypus. So I think we're going to put that on after this, so you can have a look. It's like a 4 or 5 minute film that's really beautiful. And we'll be looking at doing another one focusing on Yaegal country, because that's sort of the focus of where we're doing our pilot supplementation program. We've been working with the Yaegal traditional owner group, who've been providing cultural mentoring and also on-ground support for finding nests in the wild. And yeah, there's been lots of festivals. There was the Gugangam celebration at Yarrawarra, and they're also looking at doing another one on Yaegal country, I think towards the end of October. So that's one to look out for, because I think it will be a really good event. Reece, do you want to add any?
Yeah, just in the for community engagement, I think we're very fortunate to have Erin pulled on board to do a range of different activities that we, between myself and Heather. Heather's up the back there. Hi, Heather, how are you? We would have struggled to deal with. So bringing in Erin was a fantastic resource for us, particularly with it was identified our sightings register. It wasn't the easiest to use for a lot of the members of the public. So yeah, we just looked at means of sort of making it more user-friendly and whatnot. Karen's done a fantastic job with that, along with those notices in the Clarence Conversations page. If you haven't been to it, Clarence Conversations, get on. The Facebook posts on council's Facebook has been fantastic, and some of the videos put up there have been brilliant. Along with that, we've had the letters to adjacent landholders with the fencing trial. So the communication that's been ongoing with this has been fantastic, and just general promotion as mentioned, sort of thing. Barbara talked about the community markets, for example, the great work that's been done there. So yeah, right across the board, this whole community engagement aspect has really lifted in the last, let's say 3 to 4 years. And I encourage each and every one of you today to take a component of what we've passed on to you today and put it out and network it further in the community. It's the only way we'll get ahead, as Barbara suggested, it's people power rather than really get ahead. So, yeah, that's about us, I guess.
I was just going to quickly mention the, I guess, the funding that's made it available for us to sort of do all of these current activities. So we get a little bit of budget from the Saving Our Species project, and we've had lucky enough to get this Commonwealth funding that's helped support the pilot population supplementation. We've also been able to tap into other underspends or little grants that have become available. Community engagement, have offered a lot of in-kind. There's been fundraising efforts. Barbara, congratulations. We've done such an amazing job, and we wouldn't have been able to do what we've done without your support as well. So thank you so much. And lots of in-kind investment. Clarence Valley Council, Reese and Erin, all the people that we worked with. It's just it's been quite amazing to work in that partnership as well.
Yep.
And then quickly, next steps in the program. So our current focus is finding a wild nest. Then we're going to be looking at all of the ethics and scientific approvals for phase 2, which will be transferring the chicks to the soft release site, which is big. So then we're in the process of finalising the design for the soft release site. We'll be meeting with the landholders and Odonata soon to sort of get that started, because if we find eggs soon, they've got 2 months incubation period, and then 3 months later we're going to need to have this all done. So we're moving as quickly as we can, continuing the pest control, continuing to work with the Yaegal TO group, and we're also hoping to do a population census this financial year. It's been a while, and we put in for some funding, and now that we've got the use of drone technology, in addition to maybe detector dogs and then all the people on the ground, we're hoping we can get a better handle on the current population size. And then if this is all successful with the pilot phase, we're going to look at the feasibility of a longer term captive bee breeding program. Watch this space for now. That's it from me. Thank you, Reese. Does anyone have questions or?
I'm just interested, is there any animals that would take an adult emu, or is it really when they're eggs and young chicks that's the issue?
With predation?
Yeah.
So it's believed that chicks, the male will protect the chicks. They stay with the male until they're about 18 months old, which is when they're adult size. And from what's known, that threat is significantly reduced. So that's one of the reasoning to have them in soft release until they're that size. And so we were hopefully removing that threat of predation.
So with pigs, they're going after the eggs, or they're going
both?
Right.
So pigs predate on the eggs, and they also stalk the male and the chicks, and they'll pick off the chicks. Yeah.
So with the one of the earlier photographs that you shot, those images of the emus coming up to the fence, and you
Yes.
said there were 2 floppy wires.
Yeah.
So what's that landowner trying to keep in? Like, what is the other?
That particular landholder, I mean, he has a operational cane farm. He is heavily involved and supportive of the project. He just wanted some sort of barrier, and so he was happy to have it the most simple thing. Like, it's literally 2 floppy wires that could not even be there, you know. So the emus, like, looking through a lot of that footage, they easily move through that. We've also got another trial where we've got a gate that is sort of horizontal slats that has like a large sort of space that's believed that the emus would be able to easily move through. It's in an area where it's not a movement pathway, so we don't actually have any data of an emu moving through, but the idea to trial some stuff is we want to support, like, there's a lot of stock and a lot of stock fencing that emus can't, so we wanted to trial a whole heap of things to be sort of appealing to a farmer that has to keep stock but also to allow passage of the emus. So with the gate, there's an additional sort of floppy wire that if he has calves or other stock, he could temporarily sort of do an additional wire through there, but otherwise the rest of the time it would be open. And then either side of that, because there is stock, he's got 4 looser strands of 2 barbed, 2 plain, that through RMS trials and the data that we have, the emus will still move through if it's that lower tension and has at least 2 plain. And I guess we're wanting to get the landholders on board, like, you know, they have operations in their businesses, and we're trying to work with them to see how it can work both ways, I suppose.
How do they deal with the wild pigs?
Yeah, it's tricky. So the current program, in the footage that I showed you of that cane that has 70 pigs, the initial pest control program that we came up with the contractor didn't work because they had no interest. We had cage traps for the pigs, and usually there would be free baiting, and so the pigs would come and go, they'd get used to it, and then they would go and then they would get caught. And we're also going to do hog gone, so use sodium nitrate, working with LLS, and basically it will put the pigs to sleep. They don't wake up, and then they would be disposed of. So this is when we brought the drone in as well, because the pigs weren't doing what we wanted them to do, and they ended up shooting them. So they, with the drone, he was able to advise, and they worked together to sort of advise where exactly the pigs were in the cane. So at that particular property, we destroyed 20 pigs. So although it's not a huge amount to what is out there, it's a really good start, I think. And we're also doing leg hold traps, so for foxes and wild dogs.
It's pretty much what I've had the drone system that is cane trials, fees and burn off stuff now. Do you contact the farmers or do they let you know that they're going to do their burn off?
Yeah, we've developed a really good relationship with a lot of the cane farmers, and surprisingly, or I don't know, they're all really supportive and happy to be involved in the project. We've got sort of a bit of a communication plan, so we can be advised when they're planning their operations, so when they're harvesting, when they're burning, and when they're planting. And also, because we have that contact with them now, if they were to, spook a male off a nest or sort of find an abandoned nest, then we would be the first people that they would contact, so we could have access to those nests. Yeah. Yes.
I think Reece mentioned 2017 is when the last survey was done, and there were around 50. Just wondering when the next survey will be done, and do we have any ideas as to what's happening with the numbers now, or do we need to wait for that next survey?
Yes. So the last ones were done with national parks, and I think there's been no survey done in the last 2 or 3 years. So we have funding to do an updated census this financial year. So yeah, we don't know. I mean, it's interesting, like now talking to all these cane farmers, some people say, oh, there's way more than that in the population. You know, they see them all the time because, you know, the emus love the cane, they eat the soy, like they love that open landscape. So, you know, it's really interesting to tap into that information as well that we haven't always, I guess, included. So, yeah, we're hoping this financial year we'll be able to get a better handle on the population numbers. It's also really tricky, like they've got quite a large distribution and there's not many of them, so, you know, to work out the best way to know how many there are across that large area is something that we're starting to sort of talk to the experts about now to sort of get the best estimate that we can. Yeah.
How do you count the emus? I mean, you can't tag them because they're such a flighty bird. So how do you know how many emus are in an area or, you know, the Clarence Valley?
Yeah, so with the, and Reece might be able to answer this too, but I think with the previous estimates it was a combination of things. So there was the sightings register, so they took that into account. There was sort of like citizen science, so people were actually, you know, on foot at the same time. I wasn't involved in the project then, so I'm not sure exactly. And then national parks, they planned, and I don't know what sort of time period, but they'd sort of go out and do a bit of a blitz across the distribution, and then they would record all of that. So it was sort of pulling together a whole heap of data. So we don't know how accurate it is, but they did the same thing for all of those years, and what we know is that from 2016 it was estimated at 140, and then when it got to 2019 or 2017, it was 50. So, you know, the sightings have gone down and down and down. The reports more common of like seeing a male with chicks might have 8 chicks, and then he's got 4 chicks, and then he's got 2 chicks, and then he's on his own. So we know, I mean, we're pretty sure that the survival rates of chicks through to adulthood is pretty low. Yeah.
Plus, I guess the range of locations where they've been sighted is diminishing. So you
Yes.
see them all the time. Walleye.
That's right.
Water,
In larger
places
groups
like
as well.
that.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that highway's going straight through their corridor too. So from that last survey you're talking about, that's a major factor that's probably contributed to the decline in numbers.
Yeah.
So why hasn't that survey been done on the numbers since the completion of that highway?
Well, RMS were doing work on the emu as part of that highway. I know that there's been a long-term sort of monitoring program linked to RMS. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
I couldn't answer that.
Yeah.
That's a weird question.
Yes, I know that there has been long-term monitoring of some of the underpasses and stuff that were linked to the highway, and they also did a whole heap of sort of emu crossings and that sort of thing that they were monitoring to sort of allow for easier access of the emus. But yeah, I don't have an answer to that.
It's the same with the how the highway's acted as a dam, and a lot of water's been lying on the inside of that highway for like six months going on.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
An idea of how that water is impacting on their breeding rates.
Oh, absolutely. It's something that I think about a lot, like especially with all the recent rain. You know, is it going to delay the season, or if they do lay, are the eggs going to be viable because the ground's soaked? There's so much that we don't know. So I'm hoping to try and fill some of those gaps. Thank you. We're just going to play the platypus video.
Babagu ngurang nyanya wajar yulu darala. Maral gundi julu gurai yarang jagi. Ia yari julu maral gundi maral julu ngiem bandi. Yui! Yam ngaya gungumbu garaway bari nyagay go. Galawuna dawara. Yam gay nganyo di barmaran gungumbu bin. Galawuna ngalgira. Yam nganyo di wajar. Yam nginu di wajar. Ngiapar gungumbu wala. Yam kumbangir gundi wajar. Kumbangir gundi bindare. Kumbangir gundi jagun. Ngaya yam kumbangir jamber. Ngaya baga nyer. Daro ngudilinya nyagay go. Bindare Windala. It means a river in the stars. So in the Bindare Windala, that Gugamgan lives. In the Milky Way, the emu lives. This is a story about the emu and the platypus. Long ago in the Uladara, the dream time, there were two young boys. They said to their clan, the Budabang clan, we are going to go up the river and catch lots of fish. So the two boys headed off up the river. They took 2 poles with them. They got to a place called Thora, and they got vine, and they got grass, and they weaved it together on these 2 sticks. They made a net, the first net. They put each pole on the side of the river, and they waited all night. All night they waited and would come back in the morning. When they looked in the net was empty, and the kookaburra laughed. And the 2 boys felt so ashamed, really felt ashamed, because they told everyone that they were going to catch all this fish. Now they got nothing. One boy said, I'm not going back, and he jumped in the river. He started swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming. As he swam, he transformed into a beautiful, beautiful little platypus, shy, so he'd never hardly seen. So when people come near him, he'll swim away. The other boy was so scared to go back without his cousins, he started running on the north side of the Bellingen, all the way from Thora down the Bellingen River. As he ran and he ran and he ran, he got close to Bellingen, he started transforming into this beautiful, beautiful emu. And he kept running and running and running. And now all the emus are along the coastal areas from this one emu. So every time an emu sees a man, he runs away because he's ashamed that he didn't catch the fish. And that's the story about the emu and the platypus, how it come into the Bellingen Valley. Up until the 1980s, there were lots of emus along the east coast, but due to disruption to the way of Gumbaynggirr people and not looking after country anymore, these emus have slowly started to disappear. Now we have less than 50 left, so it's very important that we all, everybody, has a responsibility to look after these emus. Emu in Gumbaynggirr is Gugamgan. So these 2 young men told everybody that they were going to get fish, and they were boasting about how clever they were, you know. So they went and caught nothing. So for me, you know, the moral of the story is, you know, you do something, you just do it. You don't go and boast about what you're going to do. And so the moral of the story is just go and do your best, and without showing off or boasting about what you're going to do.